Commander Lee J. gripped his coffee cup as the UES Harmony hummed through the darkness between stars. 3 months into humanity's first deep space mission, and all they had found were empty planets and dead rocks. The bridge crew worked quietly. At their stations, the soft glow of screens reflecting off their tired faces. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," Communications Officer Park Mina called out, her fingers dancing across her console. Static filled the bridge speakers, then cleared into something that made everyone freeze. A voice, alien but somehow desperate, spoke in perfect English. "To any who can hear this transmission, the Devourers come. We are the last world of the Valari Empire. Our shields fail. Our weapons are useless. Help us." Lee J. set down his cup so hard it cracked. "Mina, where's that signal coming from?" 12. "Light years away, sir. But that's impossible. The signal should have taken years to reach us, but it's broadcasting in real time." Navigation Officer Cho Won looked up from his charts. "Commander, there's no record of any Valari in our databases. But if they have an empire and they're calling for help." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of life support. Lee J. stared at the star map, where a red dot pulsed ominously. Humanity had just figured out faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. Their 3 ships carried mining lasers, chemical rockets, and hope. Nothing more. "Get me Admiral Kim Tae." "On the Pioneer," Lee J. ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of Admiral Kim Tae aboard their flagship. Behind him, the bridge of the Pioneer bustled with activity as crew members ran diagnostics on their primitive weapons systems. "You heard it too," Kim Tae said without preamble. "My xenobiology team thinks it's genuine. The transmission patterns don't match any Earth technology." "What do you think we should do?" Lee J. asked. Kim Tae's expression darkened. "Run. Fast as we can back to Earth. We've got 3 ships with weapons designed for asteroid mining, not warfare. If there's something out there that can threaten a galactic empire, what chance do we have?" Before Lee J. could respond, another voice cut through the comm channel. "With respect, Admiral, that's exactly the kind of thinking that would have kept us in caves." Captain Song Hana's face appeared on split screen from the escort vessel, Defiance. Her dark eyes blazed with determination as she continued. "Every time humanity faced something bigger and stronger, we found a way. The Mongols had better horses, but we built better walls. The ocean was too vast, so we built better ships." "This isn't the same thing, Hana," Kim Tae protested. "We're talking about aliens with technology we can't even understand." "Are we?" Song Hana leaned forward. "Because that distress call sounded pretty human to me. Fear, desperation, asking for help, when everything else has failed. Maybe these Valari aren't so different from us." The alien transmission crackled to life again, more urgent this time. "The Devourer fleet has entered our system. Our outer colonies are gone. Please, if anyone receives this, we have children here, millions of children." The bridge crew of the Harmony exchanged glances. Engineer Lim Gu spoke up from his station. "Sir, our sensors are picking up massive energy signatures from that direction. Whatever's happening over there, it's big." Lee J. felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Earth's government had sent them to explore, not to fight alien foes. But the voice on the radio kept pleading, kept hoping someone would answer. "Admiral, what's our tactical assessment?" he asked. Kim Tae consulted his datapad. "Honestly, we'd be flying into a situation we don't understand, with weapons that probably won't work against unknown enemies, to help people we've never met." "Sounds like Tuesday," Park Mina muttered, earning a few nervous chuckles from the crew. Song Hana's voice cut through the tension. "My grandmother survived the Korean War with nothing but determination and a handful of rice. My great-grandfather fought off pirates with a fishing boat and pure stubbornness. We didn't get to the stars by taking the safe path." The alien transmission grew weaker, filled with static and what sounded like explosions in the background. "This is our final broadcast. The Devourers have broken through our inner defenses. To whoever hears this, remember the Valari Empire. Remember that we tried to stand against the darkness." Lee J. looked around his bridge. These men and women had volunteered to fly into the unknown, leaving behind everything they knew for the chance to touch the stars. Now the universe was asking. More of them? All ships, this is Commander Lee J. Plot a course for the Valari system, maximum burn. For going to answer that call, Kim Tae's image flickered. You're sure about this, Commander? Lee J smiled grimly. No, sir, but being unsure never stopped us before. Humanity doesn't abandon people who need help, even if they're 12 light years away and have tentacles. The 3 human ships turned as one, their engines burning bright against the cosmic darkness, carrying Earth's children toward their first real test among the stars. The jump out of hyperspace hit the human crews, like a punch to the gut. What greeted them beyond Valaris Prime made even the most hardened veterans gasp. Massive alien warships, each one the size of a city block, limped away from the planet in chaotic retreat. Their hulls bore scorch marks and twisted metal where something had torn through armor that looked impossibly advanced. My God, whispered pilot Jiang Min as he stared through the Harmony's viewport. Look at the size of those things. Commander Lee J watched the alien fleet scatter like frightened fish. Ships that dwarfed Earth's largest carriers fled in panic, their engines leaving brilliant trails of exotic energy. Some vessels spun helplessly, their crews apparently dead or unconscious. Commander, we're receiving a transmission, Park Mina announced. It's coming from that massive ship, the one that looks like a crystal cathedral. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. General Choi Bin, who had transferred to the Harmony for the meeting, stepped forward. The creature before them stood nearly 8 feet tall, with silver skin that seemed to shift like liquid metal. 4 arms gestured gracefully as it spoke, and its large eyes held depths of ancient wisdom and fresh terror. I am High Commander Thulara of the Valari Imperial Fleet, the alien said, its voice carrying musical tones that somehow conveyed both authority and desperation. You responded to our call. We are grateful, though I fear you may have doomed yourselves. General Choi Bin straightened his uniform. We're here to help. What exactly are we dealing with? Thulara's expression darkened, if that was possible for a creature made of liquid silver. The Devourers. They have consumed 17 star systems in the past cycle, entire worlds stripped bare of all matter and energy. We have fought them for 3,000 of your years. And you're losing, Lee J observed. Losing implies there was ever a chance of victory, Thulara replied bitterly. Watch. The view screen shifted to show battle footage. The human crews watched in horror as massive organic ships, looking like twisted combinations of insect and machine, swarmed around Valari vessels. The alien warships fired weapons that could vaporize mountains, but the Devourer creatures simply absorbed the energy and grew larger. They adapt, Thulara explained. Plasma cannons. They develop plasma-resistant hides, particle beams. They evolve reflective surfaces. Kinetic weapons. They grow armor. Every weapon we deploy becomes useless within hours. Dr. Yoon Hai leaned forward from her position at the science station. How do they adapt so quickly? They consume our technology along with our worlds. Every ship they destroy teaches them new defenses. They are perfect predators, evolved to counter any logical military strategy. General Choi Bin studied the tactical displays. What about unconventional warfare, guerrilla tactics? Thulara's 4 shoulders sagged simultaneously. The Corvani tried that approach. They lasted 6 months longer than the others. The Devourers learned to predict their irregular patterns and adapted accordingly. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Dr. Yoon Hai pulled up her analysis screens, running calculations that made her frown deeper with each result. Commander, she said quietly, I need to study their behavioral patterns. Can we get closer combat footage? Thulara transmitted hours of battle recordings. The human crew watched as civilizations died, their most advanced weapons proving useless against creatures that treated stellar warfare like an evolutionary exercise. But Dr. Yoon Hee noticed something the Valari had missed. Look at this pattern, she said, highlighting sections of the recordings. Every species they've fought follows predictable military doctrine. The Corvani used mathematical sequences for their guerrilla strikes. The Zathari employed logical, flanking maneuvers. Even the chaotic Bralics followed consistent patterns of controlled chaos. What are you getting at? Lee J asked. These Devourers aren't just adapting to technology. They're adapting to logic itself. But humans, She paused, pulling up Earth's military history. Look at our war records. Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off hundreds of thousands. D-Day, where we attacked the most fortified coastline in history. The charge of the Light Brigade, where cavalry charged directly into cannon fire. General Choi Bin raised an eyebrow. Those weren't exactly victories, Doctor. That's not the point. The point is, they made no tactical sense. Any logical species would call them suicide missions, but humans do things that shouldn't work, and sometimes they do work, just because we're too stubborn to accept impossible odds. On the view screen, another wave of devourer ships emerged from what looked like tears in space itself. These creatures moved like living nightmares, their biomechanical forms shifting and changing as they approached the retreating Valari fleet. "They're coming again," Thulara said, defeat heavy in its musical voice. "We estimate 4 hours before they overwhelm our remaining defenses." Dr. Yunhai stood up, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. "Commander, I think I know why they called for our help. It wasn't random. Somehow they sensed that humans are different." "Different how?" "We're the only species in the galaxy, stupid enough to charge into a fight we can't win, and somehow find a way to win it anyway." The alien creatures on screen pulsed with dark energy, their forms constantly shifting as they prepared for another assault. But for the first time since arriving, Li Jie felt something other than fear. He felt like a human being about to do something magnificently stupid. The emergency meeting aboard the Valari command ship felt like stepping into a crystal palace. Everything gleamed with advanced technology that made human equipment look like stone tools. High Commander Thulara's bridge officers, all tall and graceful with their shifting silver skin, watched the humans with barely concealed confusion. Sergeant Kang Do stood before a holographic display showing the approaching Devourer fleet. His combat fatigues looked shabby next to the Valari's flowing robes, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made the aliens step back. "Here's what we're going to do," Kang Do announced, pointing at the tactical display. "We load every ship with chemical explosives, TNT, C4, even black powder if we have to. Then we ram these things head-on." The Valari bridge fell silent. Thulara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep confusion among its species. "Sergeant," General Choi Bin said carefully, "perhaps you could explain your reasoning." "It's simple. These creatures adapt to energy weapons and advanced tech. But when's the last time they faced something that just blows up in their face the old-fashioned way?" Valari Science Officer Keith Var, a being that looked like living quicksilver, spoke up. "Primitive chemical reactions cannot possibly damage entities that have survived plasma temperatures exceeding stellar cores." Kang Do grinned. "That's what makes it perfect. They won't see it coming." Lieutenant Shin Ai stepped forward, her tablet showing Earth's military history. "The sergeant has a point. Look at our war records. Sometimes the stupidest plan works, because nobody expects it." She pulled up footage of ancient battles. Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants, the Doolittle raid on Tokyo with bombers that couldn't possibly make the return trip. Every time the enemy was prepared for logical warfare, not for humans doing the impossible. Thulara's translator struggled with the concept. "You are suggesting deliberate tactical irrationality." "We're suggesting being human," Commander Li Jie said, entering the discussion. "Dr. Yoon Hai's analysis shows these devourers counter logical strategies, so we'll give them something illogical." On the main display, the approaching enemy fleet looked like a swarm of metallic insects merged with nightmarish machinery. Each ship pulsed with dark energy, their forms constantly shifting as they adapted to perceived threats. "The creatures are scanning our vessels," reported Valari sensor technician Mordan. "They are analyzing weapon signatures and defensive capabilities." "Good," said pilot Lim Su, stepping forward with a wild grin. "Let them scan our mining lasers and navigation computers. They won't find anything that looks dangerous." Thulara's confusion deepened. "Your proposal is to attack with mining equipment, among other things." Engineer Pak Jun spread blueprints across the holographic table. "We've got 3 ships with cargo holds full of construction supplies. Fertilizer, fuel, metal pipes, industrial chemicals. Mix them right and boom." The Valari officers recoiled, as if the humans had suggested using kitchen knives in space combat. "This is madness," whispered Kethvar. "No civilization has ever employed such primitive methods in stellar warfare." "Exactly," Lieutenant Shinney's eyes lit up. "In 3,000 years of galactic warfare, has anyone ever tried ramming a ship full of homemade explosives into the enemy while the crew sings drinking songs? Drinking songs." Tulara's voice rose several octaves. "It's a human thing," Lee Jay explained. "When we're about to do something incredibly stupid and dangerous, we sing about it. Keeps our spirits up." Lim Su was already suiting up in his pilot gear. "I volunteer for the first run. My ship's engines are acting up anyway, so she's perfect. For a one-way trip." "Pilot Lim," General Choi Bin protested, "we can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm volunteering." Lim Su adjusted his helmet with steady hands. "My grandfather flew missions over the Pacific, with planes held together by prayer and spare parts. If he could face down enemy fighters in a flying tin can, I can handle some oversized space bugs." The human crews sprang into action with frightening efficiency. They stripped non-essential systems from their ships, replacing them with improvised weapons that would have horrified any sane military engineer. Chemical tanks replaced sophisticated computer systems. Kinetic projectiles built from scrap metal-filled missile tubes designed for smart weapons. "Humans don't calculate odds," Lim Su declared as he climbed into his fighter. "We make our own." The Valari watched in fascination and horror as the humans transformed their exploration vessels into flying bombs. Engineer Pak Jun welded metal plates into crude armor while singing an old Earth song about going down swinging. "Their behavior patterns are completely unpredictable," Kethvar observed, running constant scans on the human activities. "My computers cannot model their tactical approach because it defies every principle of strategic warfare." "That's the point," Dr. Yunhai said with satisfaction. "If your advanced computers can't predict what we're doing, neither can the Devourers." Sergeant Kang Do loaded the last of his homemade explosives, each one labeled with cheerful messages like "Return to Sender" and "Special Delivery." His squad worked with the calm efficiency of people who had accepted their fate and decided to make it count. The enemy fleet drew closer, their biomechanical forms writhing with anticipation. They had consumed entire civilizations, adapted to every weapon known to galactic science, but they had never faced an enemy that threw science out the window and replaced it with pure human stubbornness. "All ships, this is Commander Lee Jay. Remember, we're not trying to win through superior firepower. We're trying to win by being so completely insane that the universe itself doesn't know what to do with us." Lim Su's fighter launched first, accelerating toward the enemy formation while broadcasting an old Korean folk song at maximum volume. Behind him, the converted human fleet followed, their crude weapons primed and their crews ready to write the most ridiculous chapter in galactic military history. The darkness of space tore open like fabric being ripped apart. From the wounds, in reality itself, the Devourer swarm poured forth like living nightmares. Each creature was the size of a battleship, but they moved with organic fluidity that defied physics. Their hulls pulsed with veins of dark energy, and appendages that looked like metallic tentacles writhed around weapon ports that glowed with hungry light. "Sweet Mother of God," whispered Communications Officer Park Mina as she watched the enemy fleet emerge. "And there are hundreds of them." The Valari fleet immediately opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids unleashed torrents of superheated energy. Particle beam arrays designed to crack planetary crusts focused their power on the approaching swarm. The space between the fleets lit up like a miniature star-going nova. The Devourers didn't even slow down. The plasma struck their hulls and was absorbed like water soaking into sand. The particle beams hit their armor and scattered harmlessly into space. Within minutes, the creatures had grown visibly larger, their biomechanical forms adapting to store and process the energy being thrown at them. "All Valari ships, fall back. To defensive positions," High Commander Thulara commanded, its musical voice tight with despair. "Maintain firing patterns Delta through Gamma." But even as the alien warships retreated, firing their most advanced weapons, the Devourers kept coming. They moved through space like predatory fish, their forms constantly shifting and evolving. In real time. "This is it," Captain Hanju announced over the comm from his modified fighter. "I'm going in." His small craft, barely larger than an Earth jet fighter, accelerated toward the enemy formation. The Valari watched in confusion as the primitive human vessel approached the swarm with nothing but chemical rockets and what their sensors identified as ancient nuclear weapons. "Human vessel, your approach vector is suicide," Thulara transmitted. "Urgently. Retreat immediately." Hanju's laughter crackled over the radio. "Suicide? This is Tuesday." His fighter slammed into the nearest devourer at full speed. The nuclear charges detonated simultaneously, creating a ball of fire that would have been visible from 3 star systems away. The explosion was crude, violent, and completely unexpected. For the first time in millennia, the devourer swarm hesitated. The creature Hanju had struck writhed in apparent confusion. Instead of absorbing the nuclear energy, parts of its hull had been blown clean off. Dark fluid that might have been blood drifted in space around the wound. "Impossible," Kethavar whispered from the Valari science station. "The creatures are damaged?" "Not just damaged," Dr. Yoon Hai observed with savage satisfaction. "Confused. They don't know how to adapt to an explosion that destroys everything equally." Technician Beck Sol took command of the human fleet's coordination from her position aboard the Harmony. Her screens showed chaos, but it was organized chaos, the kind that only humans could create and somehow make work. "All ships, commence Operation Stupid," she announced. "Engineering teams begin random detonation sequences. Weapons teams, fire everything that goes boom." The human fleet scattered in directions that made no tactical sense. The Pioneer launched chemical rockets filled with industrial explosives while playing classical music at maximum volume. The Defiance fired modified mining charges that spun wildly through space before exploding in seemingly random patterns. The Devourers tried to adapt, their form shifting to counter-expected attack patterns, but there were no patterns. One human ship would fire high-explosive shells, while another launched nets made of scrap metal. A third vessel released clouds of metallic chaff mixed with paint and industrial solvents. "Enemy formation is breaking apart," reported Valari Tactical Officer Rendo with amazement. "Their coordination algorithms appear to be failing." Engineer An Ki had jury-rigged the Defiance's engines to explode in sequence, creating chain reactions that defied every principle of spacecraft design. "This is either going to work brilliantly or kill us all," he announced cheerfully over the comm. "Why not both?" replied pilot Jiang Min as he manually steered his fighter using nothing but attitude thrusters and pure determination. The most insane moment came when Sergeant Kang Do's boarding team actually managed to breach a devourer hull. Using nothing but plasma cutters, crowbars, and what appeared to be kitchen knives, they fought their way into the creature's biomechanical interior. "It's like being inside a living computer," Kang Do reported, his voice crackling with static. "Everything's organic, but it thinks like a machine, and it really doesn't like being stabbed with sharp objects." The boarding team moved through the creature's corridors, leaving explosive charges that were timed to detonate in musical rhythms. When they finally blew, the devourer actually seemed to scream, a sound that transmitted through space on frequencies that made everyone's teeth ache. "The creatures are attempting to retreat," Thulara announced with disbelief. "This is unprecedented. They have never retreated from any engagement." But the humans weren't done. Technician Baek Sol coordinated the final assault, directing damaged ships to ram the retreating devourers while their crews sang everything from ancient war chants to pop songs from Earth's radio stations. The space battle looked like controlled madness. Human vessels spun through combat zones trailing fire and debris, their crews whooping with joy as they discovered that being completely unpredictable was its own form of tactical advantage. Engineer An Ki's final gambit involved overloading 3 separate power systems simultaneously while playing recorded speeches by Earth's most inspiring leaders. When his ship exploded, it took out 2 devourer vessels that had been trying to analyze the audio transmissions. The surviving devourers fled back into dark space, their biomechanical forms flickering with what could only be described as confusion and fear. For the first time in their evolutionary history, they had encountered prey that fought back with methods that made no sense whatsoever. "Baek Sol to all human vessels," the technician announced as the enemy disappeared. Mission accomplished through superior firepower and inferior sanity. The Valari fleet hung motionless in space, their crews trying to process what they had just witnessed. An entire devourer swarm, defeated by creatures using weapons that belonged in museums and tactics that belonged in comedy shows. The final devourer mothership hung in space like a wounded giant, its biomechanical hull pulsing with desperate energy as it tried to adapt to the chaos surrounding it. This creature was massive, easily 10 times larger than the others, with appendages that writhed like angry serpents and weapon ports that glowed with malevolent intelligence. That's their command ship, Dr. Yun-Hai analyzed from her screens, aboard the Harmony. If we can take it down, the rest will lose coordination completely. Officer Jiang Wu studied the massive enemy vessel through his fighter's viewport. His small craft was barely holding together, held together by emergency patches and what his engineer called optimistic welding. But his cargo hold was full of mining equipment that had been modified in ways that would horrify safety inspectors across the galaxy. "This is Jiang Wu to all units," he announced. "I'm going in for a ground assault." "Ground assault?" General Choi Bin's voice crackled over the comm. "Jiang, that thing's in space. There is no ground." "Then I'll make some," Jiang Wu replied with the kind of calm determination that made his fellow humans proud and worried at the same time. His fighter approached the mothership's hull, dodging tentacle-like appendages that lashed out to destroy him. But Jiang Wu flew like a man possessed, weaving between attacks that should have vaporized him instantly. He found a section of the hull that looked softer than the rest and crashed directly into it. The mining drill attached to his fighter's nose punched through the creature's armor like it was made of paper. Emergency seals activated, and suddenly Jiang Wu found himself standing inside a living spaceship that pulsed with alien heartbeats. "I'm in," he reported, shouldering a backpack, full of modified mining charges. "And this place is really weird." The interior of the Devourer mothership defied description. Walls breathed like lung tissue, floors rippled with nervous energy, and ceiling fixtures that might have been organs watched him with eyes that weren't quite eyes. Everything was simultaneously organic and mechanical, as if someone had tried to build a computer out of living tissue. Jiang Wu moved through the corridors with steady determination, planting explosive charges that had been designed to blast through asteroid rock. Each bomb was set to a different timer, creating a pattern that made no mathematical sense but felt right to human intuition. The mothership tried to fight back. Defensive systems that looked like mechanical immune cells swarmed toward him, but Jiang Wu fought them off with a combination of plasma cutter, crowbar, and what appeared to be a modified jackhammer. "The creature is attempting to analyze your combat methods," Thulara reported from the Valari command ship. "But its computational systems are overloading. Your tactics do not follow any recognizable pattern." "That's because I'm making it up." "As I go," Jiang Wu replied, kicking down a door that tried to heal itself shut. "My dad always said the best way to win a fight is to be crazier than the other guy." Outside, the space battle had turned into something that would be studied by military historians for centuries, assuming anyone survived to write the history books. Human ships attacked in patterns that changed every few seconds. Some flew in straight lines, while others spiraled randomly. The Pioneer had somehow managed to weaponize its garbage disposal system, launching compressed trash at enemy targets with devastating effectiveness. Engineer Pak Jun had jury-rigged his ship's entire electrical system to overload in sequence, creating cascading explosions that made the vessel look like a fireworks display. "This is either going to be spectacular or spectacularly stupid," he announced. "Why not both?" replied his co-pilot as they rammed their burning ship into a cluster of smaller devourers. Inside the mothership, Jiang Wu reached what appeared to be the creature's brain center. It was a vast chamber filled with pulsing neurons the size of tree trunks, all connected by cables that looked like silver veins. The air hummed with alien thoughts that made his teeth ache. "Found the brain," he reported, planting the big one. His final explosive charge was a masterpiece of human engineering, if you could call it engineering. It was basically every type of mining explosive they had, wired together with timer systems that would activate in a sequence inspired by his favorite music. The rhythm made no tactical sense, but it felt right. As the charges began to detonate, the mothership convulsed like a living thing in pain. The Devourer fleet outside immediately lost coordination, their ships spinning helplessly as their command structure collapsed. Some tried to flee, others attacked their own allies, and a few simply shut down completely as if their alien minds couldn't process what was happening. "All enemy vessels are retreating," reported Valari Sensor Officer Mordan with amazement. "The Devourer swarm is broken." The remaining creatures fled into dark space, their biomechanical forms flickering with what could only be described as terror. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered an enemy they couldn't understand, couldn't predict, and couldn't defeat. High Commander Thulara's image appeared on the human fleet's screens, its 4 arms spread in what might have been a gesture of profound respect. "Humans of Earth," it said, its musical voice filled with awe. "You have accomplished what no civilization has managed in 3 millennia. The Valari Empire would be honored to offer you full membership in the Galactic Council. Your people would be welcome among the stars as equals and allies." Commander Lee J smiled as he looked at his battered fleet, ships held together by determination and spare parts, crews exhausted but grinning with victory, and enough battle damage to keep repair. "Teams busy for years. We appreciate the offer, High Commander," he said, "but humanity will make its own path among the stars. That's what we do. We find a way when there shouldn't be one." The human fleet turned toward home, their engines burning bright against the cosmic darkness. Behind them, the Valari watched in silent wonder as the creatures who had saved them disappeared into the starfield. "What have we witnessed?" asked Kethavar quietly. Thulara considered the question as it watched the human ships depart. "Something unprecedented, a species that turns weakness into strength through sheer stubborn will. They may be the most dangerous beings in the galaxy simply because they refuse to accept that anything is impossible." As the humans vanished into hyperspace, the Valari began to understand that the galaxy had changed forever. Somewhere out there, a young species was learning that the universe was much larger and stranger than they had imagined, and the universe was about to learn that humans were much more stubborn than anyone had imagined. The Endi